And make sure that we're on WHCI.
Good evening, Mayor Cantor. WHCI is ready when you are.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ida. Okay, well, I'm calling the public hearing. This is a public hearing application filed on behalf of ALDI, owner of property located at 511 New Park Avenue, also known as West Hartford Place, located within Special Development District, SDD number 94. The application seeks permission to expand the existing ALDI building, enlarge and enhance the existing on-site bus stop shelter, and make associated site landscape and parking improvements. So the meeting has come to order. Good evening. I am Mayor Sherry Cantor, and I'd like to welcome you to tonight's virtual public hearing. Application as I just specified. Because in-person attendance at public meetings is likely to increase the risk of transmission of COVID-19, this hearing is being conducted in accordance with Governor Lamont's executive orders 7B and 7I, and as extended by Executive Order 9A. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Blanks?
Town Chair.
Present.
Ms. Cantor?
Here.
Mr. Davidoff? Mr. Davidoff?
I can't hear you now.
Ms. Fay?
Here.
Mr. Gold?
Present.
Ms. Kerrigan?
Here.
Mr. Sweeney?
Here.
Mr. Winograd?
Present.
And Mr. Williams?
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. LeBreau. This is Mayor Cantor again.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I believe Councilor Davidoff was having an issue with his volume, and his participation will be necessary for him to vote on the application. I just want to make sure he's able to participate.
Okay, I see him, and I heard
did hear him. I heard him.
No, I know we can hear him. I think he can't hear us, which is frankly, for the purposes of this, more important.
Okay, we will check. Mr. Davidoff, can you hear us? I will text him. Leon, maybe you should, I don't know if you can hear me. Can you shake your head if you can hear me? No. All right, he's unable to hear. Maybe I'm going to ask him to call in.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, Dallas Dodge Corporation Council. What I would suggest is, why don't we read through the rules for the meeting, and perhaps the meeting moderator can try and make contact with Councilor Davidoff to make sure that he can hear, but we should pause after the reading of the rules to make sure that he is able to actively participate in the meeting.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Davidoff. Again, this is Mayor Cantor. I would like to note that we do have a full quorum. One is floating, but we will have everyone as a part of the council here. Because of the virtual format of the hearing, there are some special rules and procedures that I need to cover before we begin. I would like to start with a brief overview of the process. Many of you know it well, but for those of you that don't, members of the Town Council, town staff, and the applicant's team are participating in this hearing via WebEx. Members of the public can view the meeting live on West Hartford Community Interactive Comcast Channel 5 and Frontier TV Channel 6098 or at www.whctv.org. The meeting is also being recorded for on-demand viewing, which will be available on the town website. In addition, I would like to note that the required legal notice was posted on the town's website and published in the Hartford Current. The application materials have been posted and are available for review on the town's website in accordance with Executive Order 7I. All participants must identify themselves by name and title every time they speak. We will begin with a presentation by the applicant, whose representatives are participating via video conference. The applicant will have 20 minutes to make their presentation. If necessary, the applicant may request additional time at the end of 20 minutes, and I may exercise my discretion as chair to grant them additional time in 5-minute increments. Following the presentation by the applicant, we will open the floor to members of the public, and I will explain how that process will work in a moment. After the public comment is over, the applicant will have 5 minutes to address any issues raised during the public comment section. Members of the council will then have an opportunity to ask questions of the applicant, and I will call on the members of the council in alphabetical order. Each member of the council will have 5 minutes to ask questions, which will include the time it takes for the applicant to answer. If I feel an answer has taken an undue amount of time of a councilor's allotted time, I might grant additional time upon request of the councilor. With that, I invite the applicant to begin their presentation. Please welcome and please state your name for the record. Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Yeah, we'll just make sure that, John, are you able to hear?
All set.
Okay, and just whoever's not speaking, please make sure you mute your devices. Thank you.
Okay, good evening, Mayor Cantor and members of the Town Council. My name is Matthew Bruton, up here. I'm a professional engineer registered in the state of Connecticut, and here on behalf of ALDI Inc. With me tonight is Bruno Lorenco, the Director of Real Estate from ALDI Inc., also on the line and via camera. I'll walk you through our application, and hopefully Bruno and I can answer any questions you may have about the application in front of you tonight. Todd, are you have the ability to bring up the plans? Okay, can you go? You can leave it actually on this page at the moment. Before Todd flicks to the next page, I'll just point out in the upper right-hand corner, this is the vicinity map. The parcel in question is 511 New Park Avenue in West Hartford. This is a 35-acre parcel in the SDD zone, also restricted industrial. It is currently occupied by ALDI, Chick-fil-A, BJ's, and Home Depot. And Todd, do you want to move to the next page? So this is a current blow up of ALDI's on the left side of the page and the existing conditions that exist today. Currently, besides the occupants of this parcel, ALDI, Chick-fil-A, BJ's, and Home Depot, the parcel in general abuts industrial or business districts with a variety of businesses surrounding, including Colt, Brewery, Raymore Flanagan, and several fitness places. That are all within abutting or across the street from this parcel. Todd, can you scroll down to the next page? So members of the council, what you see here is a proposed site plan. New Park Avenue is actually across the bottom of the page. ALDI's is to the left with their symbol in the center of their building, and Chick-fil-A is to the right. What is being proposed by ALDI Inc. is a renovation of this existing facility. It is currently just over 16,000 square feet to the northwest corner, and Todd may be able to kind of highlight it with his mouse. To the northwest corner of this building, they're proposing a little over a 1,000 square foot addition in the loading dock. This is the facade that faces BJ's and BJ's gas canopy to the rear. With that addition, there's also a minor modification to proposed loading dock, which is shown just north of where Todd circled in red. There's also some minor modifications of the parking lot to the right of that circle to provide new layout and circulation for the expanded addition. In addition to that, there is also a bike rack that has been added to the sidewalk that comes from New Park Avenue to the main entrance of ALDI. Todd can circle that as well. And we're also showing several refreshing items on the common access drives between these businesses in BJ's and north and Home Depot, which is north of this plan. So that includes refreshing of stop bars and stop signs, and also the center dividing islands and a crosswalk to the upper right-hand corner of the page. In addition to what Aldi's is proposing on their building and into their parking lot, there was also extensive discussions with the town and CT Transit about the CT Transit bus shelter that is on the parcel. Todd can circle that. I think that would jump out a little bit. With discussions with the town as this project got started, several issues were brought to our attention in terms of the operation of this bus shelter. In many instances, there's a lot of congestion in this area, and also there's been some abuse of the actual bus shelter itself from people in the area. If you guys have been to the site recently, over the past couple of years, the actual bus shelter is a solid brick construction that does not allow a lot of see-through into what may be occurring inside. And that has been kind of an issue for not only these landowners, but also the town having to address things there. So as part of Aldi's expansion and coordination with the town and CT Transit, we've obviously provided restriping of this area to clearly define lanes to help the flow of traffic in and out of the site. We have also pushed and expanded the bus drop-off area to make sure that the CT Transit vehicles can fit as best as possible within this drop-off area to not impede the flow of traffic. Aldi's is also proposing to replace the actual bus shelter with a modern, sleek design with see-through walls. So any abuse of this bus stop can be stopped in a timely manner or avoided altogether. Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Todd. In addition to what is shown on the site plan here, obviously there's a reconfiguration of some of the landscaped islands within the parking lot and along the bus shelter. We have provided a variety of trees and shrubs in these islands to provide obviously an aesthetically pleasing parking lot and bus shelter area. There's also a plan that involves erosion and sedimentation control during the construction process. When earth is exposed and not stabilized, there is erosion control measures in place to make sure to protect the drainage system on the property, which will eventually protect the system in the street and also the abutters. So that includes things like silt sacks, silt fence, things of that nature. That's the plan that Todd shows right there. Todd, do you want to go to the next page? Looks a little laggy on my side. I'll wait. Can you go one more? And just zoom out a little bit. So what's proposed in the upper left-hand corner is a new bike rack, which is located near the main entrance from the sidewalk connection on New Park to the main entrance of ALDI. And then to the right is an updated bus shelter, which complies with CT Transit's new standards, which will hopefully eliminate the problems that are existing with the block structure on site. If you can scroll to the next page, Todd, please. All right. This one's better if we zoom in. Todd, can you zoom into the top elevation? All right, so this top elevation that you guys see in front of you now, which is labeled number 4, side elevation, this is the elevation that faces New Park Ave. There is not a lot of renovation happening to this elevation. You can see callouts that there is a removal of the food market sign, and then there's a replacement of the new ALDI sign above the main entrance there. Other than that, the elevation would remain the same. The elevation just below number 4, which is labeled side elevation 3. This is the elevation that faces the rear, which is towards BJ's gas canopy. This is actually the side where the expansion is happening. So you can see what is colored in a brick red is where the expansion is. Anything shown in gray is existing. So the brick will continue on the existing facade to match what is already there. So this is a soldier course brick, which is kind of 3/4 the way up the wall and along with the control joints. So this will match the existing architecture of the building and will be a seamless addition. Post-construction, it'll look congruent to the existing design. Todd, if you want to zoom out a little bit, rear elevation 2. Which is really the back of the building. This is the facade that faces the cult development to the southwest. That there is no proposed changes on that facade for the abutter that would be noticeable to the abutter. The elevation on the bottom, 1 front elevation. This is the facade that faces the parking lot and also Chick-fil-A. If you zoom in a little bit, you can see this in more detail. Starting on the left side of the facade, there's obviously another logo that would be replaced with the new ALDI signage, and the food market signage would be removed. Moving about 3/4 of the way over the elevation, there is some new brick that would block off a existing man door that is being relocated further to the right, which you can see in gray. And then the new brick structure with 1,000 square foot addition in the loading dock is being proposed. That is shown there on the far right. Again, this is matching the same brick that is there currently with the soldier course layer and the control joints to match existing architecture. So that is a quick summary of the plans that Todd just skimmed through. Bruno Lorenko, Director of ALDI construction, is on the line as well. Bruno, you want to take a few minutes to talk about, the redevelopment and renovation of the store and the kind of timeline and the program in general? I think that'd be helpful.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Bruno Lorenko. I'm the Director of Real Estate for ALDI Food Market. So in 2017, ALDI rolled out a plan to sort of remodel our stores, but more extensively than we've done in the past. And that included not only expansions, but also mechanical upgrades to our existing stores. So in Connecticut in general, for our 27 stores, we've completed expansions in most of them and remodels in some, depending on the age. West Hartford and our store in West Haven are the last 2 remaining stores in Connecticut to be expanded or remodeled. Part of that remodel includes LED lights, brand new mechanicals, including environmentally friendly units for refrigeration, as well as HVAC, LED, and then obviously brand new graphics, brand new paint. And this expansion, while it's only 1,000 square feet, it helps us increase our sales floor by almost 2,000 square feet by also taking some back room space. What that allows us to do is provide more fresh offerings. So our typical reach in at the current store is about 40 feet. We would go to 120 feet. So no more fresh produce inside the multi-deck units, which is the refrigerated units, as well as more of the fresh meat offerings. So it's an extensive program. Like I said earlier, it's about $2 million that we're investing into this store. It'll obviously there's some additional site work. There's some condo agreements that had to go along with this design as well. So it took a little bit more time, but we're excited to get this store done and finally get to the point where we can get approvals and start construction next year to do this remodel. It's about a 15-week long construction period with 10 weeks of open construction and then 5 weeks of closed construction, where we then upgrade all the mechanicals and refrigeration. So if anybody has any questions, please let me know, but that is about it.
Okay, thank you both very much for this. This is a significant investment. We have afforded the public the opportunity to either comment in writing or live on the phone, which will begin in a moment. Any written comments we received are published on the town's website as a PDF and are embedded on the online agenda. All written comments are also provided to the council and applicant for review. I will ask the clerk to please read into the record the names of any persons who submitted written comments. Essie, were there any written comments on this?
Madam Mayor, there were no comments received by my office.
Okay, thank you so much. And we will move on live comments, call-in comments. There may be some of the public on the phone line, but if anyone else would like to comment, please dial 1-408-418-9388. That's 1-408-418-9388. Access code 173-822-9838. That's 173-822-9838. If anyone is on the line or calls in, you will have 3 minutes to speak, except that anyone who's duly authorized representative of the group will have 5 minutes. All speakers must state their name and address. As a reminder, phone access is only for members of the public who wish to speak. If you do not wish to speak, please hang up and listen on the TV or streaming on the internet. If you've called in and are also streaming the meeting on YouTube or watching the TV, please silence your device when you speak. Otherwise, there will be quite an echo and a slight delay on the TV and streaming broadcast. So we will also enforce time limits, but I'm not sure that we have anybody on the line or calling in. Madam Moderator, do you see any numbers that have called in?
Madam Mayor, there are no callers at this time.
Okay. All right. With that, I think this is the opportunity for the applicant to rebut, but since there is no but, there's no rebut. So no, there's no input. So if there's anything you would like to close, for the, I think we'll hold off until after the council has questions. So we will go right to council questions. So I'm going to call the councilors in reverse order. So, Mr. Williams, be ready. And we will, if you have any questions, don't feel compelled. And if you do, just, pass if you don't, no problem. Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It was a thorough presentation. I have no questions.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Mr. Winograd? Anything? Mr. Winograd? Mr. Winograd, do you have any comments, questions?
Yeah, no, I'm frozen.
Okay. We can hear you, though.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Winograd. Mr. Sweeney? There's a funny squeak. I don't know if someone else has not muted, but Mr. Sweeney, any comments, questions? I don't. Mr. Sweeney, can you hear me? Comments, questions? Nope. Okay. Ms. Kerrigan, anything?
Thank you. Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. I do have some questions, and I say this because I frequented that parking lot a lot because my son Fernando worked at Chick-fil-A, and I go to BJ's to get my discounted gas. And I looked at the drawings to try to understand what you're doing here. I have some concerns about the amount of traffic, because my experience has been, I pull in and then I make a left into Chick-fil-A, and there's so many cars driving around the Aldi Chick-fil-A parking lot that they share, that Chick-fil-A sets up cones to sort of divert traffic. So my concern is that with your proposed changes, it's going to make the traffic that already exists there harder to deal with. So can you make me feel better about this?
Thank you, Ms. Corrigan, and I'll just respond to you on it. Please remember to please keep your phone if you're not. Thank you. Mr. Bruchard.
Thank you again, Matt Bruton, for the record. Bruno or Todd can jump in. Great question, Ms. Kerrigan. That was discussed extensively during the preliminary discussion when this project came into town. The expansion of the Aldi's, while it obviously makes the building a little bit bigger, actually does not increase traffic to all these. Bruno can go into a little bit larger detail if he needs to, but the goal of obviously expanding all these is to expand their fresh product line, which really increases their basket size, doesn't actually draw more customers to the parking lot. So there is no expansion of our own parking lot for the needs of their business. Also, as part of that discussion with the town, we are aware that Chick-fil-A is quite a popular destination. There was a lot of discussion on closing off portions of the driveway, making the kind of cones that they set out more permanent to direct traffic in a certain way. And that was really rebutted by Chick-fil-A. And unfortunately, as part of this property, Aldi's is not the sole owner. They obviously share this with Home Depot and BJ's and Chick-fil-A. So the hands were kind of tied a little bit with what we were able to do with the Chick-fil-A portion of the parking lot. But I will say that Aldi's development is not going to drive a larger traffic demand to the sites. And the improvements that we're proposing to make on the common access drives, especially with the restriping and the bus lane, are hoping to alleviate those problems. Our understanding is that the buses that stop at Chick-fil-A have been stopping and blocking the drive aisle to impede the free flow of traffic, which has been a major issue. CT Transit has been made aware of that. They've also been made aware that their bus drivers frequently stop and leave their buses and run into Chick-fil-A, which obviously takes several minutes, which is also delaying. So there's been conversations with CT Transit about instructing their bus drivers to not take a lunch break at the expense of other shoppers in the plaza. So that's kind of a quick summary of where we are and kind of how we got to where we are now. I don't know if Bruno or maybe Todd want to interject anything else that was discussed over the past year.
Bruno Lorenko, Director of Real Estate for Aldi. We obviously met with the town beforehand for a long time, several years, and we discussed the traffic, and overall the Chick-fil-A, and more importantly, kind of the bus and the access in and out of the site. And that's why we came to the solution of not only improving the bus stop, but also improving the access to the bus. I think that the site circulates well. I can't speak for Chick-fil-A why they continue to do that, since obviously we met with them as well. But I think what Matt said kind of covers the majority of it.
Thank you both. Ms. Kerrigan, do you have any further questions?
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. And I have the utmost respect for whatever Todd may recommend. So no doubt I will be approving this or voting for it. But I assume what you're saying is Chick-fil-A has no issues with it. My only suggestion, would it be possible, Todd, for you to take a look, or have you looked at the way traffic flows through there to see whether there's anything that can be done to make it a little less, it's congested. And I think that there might become a time when an accident might happen. So I don't know if that's possible or not, but I've been through there many times and it's never feels that it flows quite properly. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kerrigan. Mr. Dumais, do you want to comment on Ms. Kerrigan's concerns?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through Todd Dumais, for the record, through you to Councilor Kerrigan. The applicant was right. Town staff worked with their team for many, many months, so well over a year, to try to design an accommodation that could address some of the underlying traffic issues. I will try to share a screen that I think shows an example of the problem. Hopefully that loads. And it does not work. So the issue is largely caused by, oh, there we go. So this is the existing bus shelter, and you can see Chick-fil-A behind it. Oftentimes there are double buses or double articulated buses stacked in this intersection, and those stack through and back up traffic as I pan around here towards the site drive entrance to Aldi's and Chick-fil-A. This car right on the left is where the BJ's gas station exiting or entering portion leaves. And when the buses queue up and stack there, it can clog up that entire intersection and cause it to operate in an unsafe manner. The improvements proposed by the applicant, in staff's opinion, will make for safety improvements because it will allow more buses to pull outside of that intersection and allow re-striping of the intersection to facilitate safer vehicular movement through it. I know Mr. Martin is also on the line. He's perhaps more qualified to speak to the actual safety concerns and the traffic engineering behind it. Of interest, you can see the cones in this Google Street View image, Councilor Kerrigan, of the issue you're talking about. And staff did approach the applicant to see if Chick-fil-A would permanently block off that. That's the entrance to their drive-through. And when it's particularly busy period, if that entrance is left open or exit, the vehicles can queue out and through that intersection, causing further traffic restrictions. When it's in the closed condition, traffic circulates through the broader parking lot to get into the drive aisle lane, and it's not as problematic. It's just in periods where there significant traffic and utilization that is a concern. But the improvements proposed by the applicant should go a long way to making the overall operation safer.
Thank you, Mr. Dumais. Mr. Martin, anything you want to add or?
Sure. It's Dwayne Martin, town engineer. We have no problem taking a look at it and seeing if there's anything that we can come up with. The cones were not part of the original approval, but when the restaurant first opened up, it was very, very popular, and it made all the sense in the world to put those there because it created a little gridlock situation. Todd's correct. The bus shelter improvements will be a huge benefit, removing that bottleneck that's created when the buses are there. But my staff can take a look at the parking lot and see whatever type of changes or improvements can be made if you would like us to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. I think Ms. Kerrigan, anything further from you?
No, I'm just thankful. A lot of thought went through it.
Yeah, I think it would probably be helpful. I'm assuming that the application will be approved, and then maybe observing and if there's continued issues, maybe that it would be appropriate for town staff to take a look. So that would be my recommendation. But we will continue on with council questions. Mr. Gold.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you, I just want to thank the applicants for the presentation and their continued investment in our town. So thank you. I have no questions.
Thank you, Mr. Gold. Ms. Fay?
Thank you, Mayor Cantor. Yeah, I'm very grateful for this application because I think the store is a great store and I think it really helps the underserved in our town. And I think making it better is certainly a good thing. You know, I've been to different Aldi's within the community. I've been to East Hartford, which, you know, is my hometown, and I've seen the improvements that you are proposing. And the store it just keeps getting better and better. your organics selections keep growing, and the fresh produce just keeps growing. And your selections, you actually have some very unique items in there. So if people aren't shopping there, they should at least check it out. I mean, I go to a bunch of different grocery stores, but that's one that I absolutely love. And I do have to say, I agree with Beth Kerrigan about the traffic, and it's not necessarily because of Aldi's, but just the configuration with the BJ's Gas and Home Depot and BJ's there and Chick-fil-A. It does get a little bit, I wouldn't use the word congested per se, but it's contentious sometimes. People beeping and try to jockey for position. So anything we can do to alleviate that, I think would be helpful. But I believe that this is a great addition to town and a great grocery store, and I appreciate what you guys do.
Thank you, Ms. Fay. Mr. Davidoff?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to the applicant. In the record, you stated that you had difficulty doing community outreach. Can you tell the council what community outreach you actually did during the pandemic and whether or not you received any responses from the immediate others being Chick-fil-A, BJ's, and Home Depot?
Yes, again, Matt Bruton for the record. I'll let Bruno speak to the actual common tenants on the parcel. I can just speak to the abutters. I personally reached out to the abutting property owners over the past several weeks. I made contact with several of them, many who were already aware of all these intentions to improve the project and seem supportive. There were several that asked questions and weren't aware of the changes. If they wanted, I forwarded along site plans and elevations and a brief description of the project, along with the date and time of this meeting if they felt free to join or to reach back out to me with any questions. And there were several abutters, mostly with the larger corporations, that either did not respond or reach out when I reached out. So it's kind of a mixed bag. Obviously, I was kind of restricted from knocking and going door to door with the current pandemic. But most of the contact that was made was positive. And I can let Mr. Lorenko speak to conversations with his common tenants of BJ's and Home Depot.
Hello, Bruno Lorenko, Director of Real Estate for Aldi. So when we purchased the project or purchased the property in 2007, it was owned, I believe it was owned by Petco. We bought it from Petco, and it was part of a condo agreement. The parties to the condo agreement were obviously Home Depot and BJ's, with Home Depot also running the condo association through one of their companies. So for us to do the expansion and work in the common area, which we touched the common area just a bit on the BJ's side. We have a gas station to move some drainage structures. We have to do extensive legal work, about 2 years worth of negotiating with both Home Depot and BJ's in order to get their approval to do this expansion and remodel. So like I said, this was the last store that we're remodeling for those reasons. We started this process in 2017 and we got to where we are today. But obviously Home Depot, the condo association, the maintenance company, corporate facilities who now runs the condo, as well as the town and BJ's have all signed off on our expansion. And those documents have all been recorded as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anything else, Mr. David?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Can the applicant supply us for the record these written email documentation so that we can have something with respect to community outreach where appropriate for that, but I think that would be helpful.
Thank you, Mr. David. So again, if you're not speaking, please turn your device on mute. Yes, we will request those documentation, those emails. Okay. Yes, Mr. Dodge, is that?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Because the public hearing will be closing at the end of, presumably at the end of this question and answer session, we wouldn't be able to accept further documents at that point in support of the application. So I do believe that the plan is to close the public hearing tonight and to then vote on the application at the council meeting. And so there may not be an opportunity to receive additional documentation.
Thank you, Mr. Dodge. Mr. Davidoff, is that, you heard that? Any questions on that?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Corporation Council, would it be possible as a condition of approval that the applicant would just provide us with this documentation, just to supplement the record to show that they did make good faith efforts for community outreach? It's something that we do require on STDs.
Mr. Dodge?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As a condition of approval, you could require that they provide that to the town planner, but there's no mechanism to do essentially a contingent approval. So, although they'd be required to provide it to the town planner, there'd be no opportunity for the council to, review it and then take any kind of disagreeing action with whatever they were to do at the council meeting this evening. So, while you could condition the approval on them providing that to the town, there's really, you would not be able to take any action based upon that. And I think generally, Madam Mayor, I think that the applicant is a longstanding tenant in the or property owner in the town. I think that they've heard the request tonight. I'm sure that they will, in all likelihood, provide it to the town planner. And I think that we can probably take them at their word on that. And we were not planning on making any changes to the conditions of approval this evening, just because given the minor changes here, there's really no need for that. So I would recommend just asking the applicant to provide those at a later date, not conditioning approval on that.
Thank you, Mr. Davidoff. Thank you, Mr. Dodge. Mr. Davidoff, any further comments or questions?
No issues with what Corporation Council says, but as long as we can get something into the record, I think that would be quite helpful should there be other STDs amendments in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. So Mr. Bruton and Mr. Lorenko, I think have heard that there's a specific request to put those as part of the record of the application into the package for town staff. Thank you. And if there's any problems with that, an explanation on why, I guess would be, but there will be no conditions of approval on that. And finally, Ms. Blanks.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you, and thank you, Mr. Bruton and Mr. Renko, for your application this evening. Most of my questions were answered. However, I do have one remaining question regarding the bus stop. Could you tell me in terms of what phase during the construction will the bus stop be addressed in terms of the reconstruction or the modification?
Thank you, Ms. Blanks. Mr. Bruton?
Matt Bruton, for the record. Bruno, I guess, I don't know if we've thought that out for enough, assuming that would be done during the closed portion of the ALDI's renovation, or would you do it during the 10 weeks of open construction?
We have not gone to the point where we've phased construction. So we'd have to kind of plan it when it's the less intrusive to the customers. It would probably be beneficial to at least start some of the work initially and actually finish and install it when the store is closed within the 5 weeks, just to eliminate the traffic in that area while the store is closed. But again, the project hasn't been phased as far as construction. Typically, we do the site work in the beginning. I know that bus structure has to be ordered. There's obviously lead times that go along with that, but so I can't give you an exact timeline. But I would assume that it would be complete. Would have to be completed before our grand opening in 15 weeks. So hope that answers or attempts to answer your question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Blanks?
I just want to acknowledge Councillor Fay and Councillor Kerrigan That little area there does get quite congested, and I observed it without the bus being there. Many cars just kind of roll through those stop signs or the stop indicators. So my concern is when you do begin phase on that bus stop or the housing, if you will, that will present a problem. So probably to you, Mr. Martin, is something for you all to think about in terms of how you either reroute or have good signage in terms of that traffic backup between the entrance into BJ's and then when you begin to divert off either into Chick-fil-A's or into the BJ's gas station. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Blanks. Anything further? All right. So just some closing comments. Thank you very much for your presentation. Obviously, there's some very good good improvements here with I'm glad you listened to staff on the bicycle infrastructure, as well as the fast track, the bus stop there, because that really has been an issue. I do think that this is something that we're going to have to see how the traffic flow goes and maybe address some issues down the way. I know this has been a long road for you because this is a condo. This is a condo dynamic, and there have been a lot of legal hurdles. So I appreciate your patience and your perseverance in making this happen, and it really will be a significant improvement. I heard you about 5 weeks. You said the store will be completely closed. Is that the anticipation? That was my only question.
Bruno Lorenco, Director of Real Estate. Madam Mayor, yes, 5 weeks closed for construction. We will obviously direct our customers to our closest stores, which are are in Newington, East Hartford, Rocky Hill, and New Britain. But for 5 weeks, the store will be closed, and that's our standard construction timeline for an expansion of this type with a full mechanical upgrade. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And may I canter again? And that could that fall in the holiday season, do you think, or would that be prior to? I mean, we're approaching holiday season very quickly, and I think you had said 15-week. There was a 15-week window. Do you have that detail on when the closures would be?
Yes, Bruno Lorenco, Director of Real Estate. Yes, Madam Mayor. Right now, we after this approval, we start our architectural plans right after Thanksgiving. We would have completed plans by December. We would plan to go in for permitting in January. We would then get our bids and hope to start construction depending on the weather, depending on how difficult the weather is. We would try to start construction in February. Our goal is to be open, still doing some construction, be open for Easter, which is April 4th of 2021, to be open for that, and then be back open, fully remodeled in May.
Okay, thank you very much. Holidays are obviously a little different this particular season, but I'm sure that will be appreciated, that the construction will be in that window. All right, any further questions from any counselors or comments? All right, with that, I would like to read into the record before we close the hearing. October 7th from TPZ and September 14th, 2020 from DRAC recommending approval, and a letter dated September 21st, 2020 from CROG finding no apparent conflict with regional plans and policies or the concerns of neighboring towns. If there is no objection, we will close the public hearing. Is there any objection? The public hearing is closed without objection. Thank you. We will begin the council meeting in just a couple of minutes. Okay, I just had a few texts to catch up with. People are, so we will begin in literally 1 minute. So don't go anywhere.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Winograd.
I'm not seeing anybody. Is this a universal problem or is it my connection?
No, it's your connection.
Huh, weird. I see you.
It's definitely you.
Everybody else is gone. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I'm seeing people in and out, but that is you.
Right.
The you problem, Ben.
Okay, are we ready? Is everybody set? Just give me a nod if you're popping in and out, but the Brady Bunch, who knew that was so solid? That was, anyway. All right, I am calling the 7:30, 10:13 Town Council meeting to order. This meeting is available live on West Hartford Community Interactive, Comcast Channel 5 and Frontier TV Channel 6098, YouTube, as well as www.wtv.org. If somebody's not on mute, so if you aren't, probably a good idea before something happens and you're embarrassed. Any resident or taxpayer of the town who wishes to address the council during the public forum portion of the agenda should call 408-418-9388. That's 408-418-9388. Access code 132-767-2999. At the start of the meeting, callers will be placed in queue. When the public forum portion begins, the meeting moderator will provide instructions on how callers will be recognized. Only persons who intend to participate in the public forum should call in. All other persons may watch and listen on television or online. So the meeting is now called to order, and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you can stand, I am tangled in my cords. Please do. Thank you. What? Can you see the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Gold. All right. And we will begin with a roll call, Ms. Lebrow.
Ms. Blanks?
Present.
Ms. Cantor?
Here.
Mr. Davidoff?
Here.
Ms. Fay? Ms. Fay? Mr. Gold?
Present.
Ms. Kerrigan?
Here.
Mr. Sweeney?
Here.
Mr. Winograd?
Here.
And Mr. Williams?
Here.
One more time for Ms. Fay?
Here.
Thank you. Thank you. Before we're going to do one thing, I do an update, and I do want people to pay attention. We obviously are in a pandemic, and things are serious. The numbers as of 3 p.m. today: 7,787,548 positive COVID cases, 214,446 deaths, and the 7-day average of positive cases is 351,361 in our nation. That means a daily average of over 50,000 cases per day. We also are seeing numbers in Connecticut go up. West Hartford's bopped around a little bit, but we're definitely up from where we were in the summer. And so I again urge everybody. I see our health district executive director on this, and I know she will be providing an update for us. So, and she can highlight some of those things that we talk about so much about keeping each other safe. So before we begin the formal agenda, I make a motion to remove from the agenda item 8F. This is a resolution authorizing the acceptance of an easement from the West Hartford Housing Authority to support the redevelopment project at 540 New Park Avenue. I would like to invite the town manager to explain the reason for withdrawing the item. Matt? Mr. Hart?
Thank you, Mayor. Matt Hart, Town Manager. Good evening, everyone. The reason is very straightforward. The housing authority may decide to take title to the property in a different name. They may use Troutbrook Realty Advisors, which is their development arm. So they need to figure that out because that'll affect who the legal holder of the easement is. So we expect to be able to bring this back to you either next meeting or the meeting following.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. If there's no objections, are there any objections to removal? Seeing that there's no objections, the motion is adopted and now removed from the agenda. We now go to the public forum section of this meeting. Any resident or taxpayer of the town who wishes to address the council regarding any item on the agenda, except the one that was just withdrawn, and not otherwise subject to the public hearing, may call 408-418-9388. Again, 408-418-9388. Access code 132-767-2999. Callers should not mute their phones. The meeting moderator will do that for you. Callers will be placed in a queue. I'm not sure that will be necessary tonight. Only persons who intend to participate in the public forum should call in. All other persons may watch and listen on television or online. Moderator, are there any callers on the line?
Madam Mayor, there are no callers on the line.
Okay, thank you very much. Right now, I will be presenting a proclamation. It's a little weird to do virtual proclamations, but this is again an important proclamation, and we do this periodically to mark something that is that we feel we need to do. This is a proclamation for Hispanic Heritage Month, whereas the town of West Hartford recognizes and honors contributions of all Hispanic Americans, members of our community, and in 1988, the United States Congress adopted a resolution designating September 15th to October 15th of each year as National Hispanic Heritage Month, and whereas the now month-long tribute is observed from September 15th to October 15th, and commemorates those in the U.S. whose ancestors come from Argentina, Bolivia, Chile, Colombia, Costa Rica, Cuba, Dominican Republic, Ecuador, El Salvador, Equatorial Guinea, Guatemala, Honduras, Mexico, Nicaragua, Panama, Paraguay, Peru, Puerto Rico, Uruguay, and Venezuela, whereas the celebration recognizes the positive impact that Hispanic Americans have left on the country. Hispanic Americans bring a rich cultural heritage representing many countries, ethnicities, and religious traditions, which contribute to America's future. And whereas the Hispanic community has had a profound influence on our country through their strong commitment to family, faith, hard work, and services, and they have, sorry, I'm reading from my phone, and they have enhanced and shaped our national heritage and centuries-old tradition that reflect the multi-ethnic and multicultural customs of our community. And whereas during National Hispanic Heritage Month, the United States celebrates the culture and traditions of Spanish-speaking residents who trace their roots to the aforenamed countries, whereas the town of West Hartford invites all members of the community to learn more about the rich Hispanic culture, traditions, and history, and celebrate the contributions that have been made to our country and our community by Hispanic Americans. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that on behalf of the Town Council of West Hartford and the residents of West Hartford, I, Mayor Sherry G. Cantor, do hereby proclaim September 15th to October 15th Hispanic Heritage Month, and this month, as we recall our hard-fought progress, let us resolve to continue moving forward together. Let us let us ensure the laws respect everyone. Civil rights apply to everyone. I call upon our residents to learn more about the rich history of Hispanic heritage and to observe the month with appropriate programs and activities. So, and now we will move to the consent calendar. Without objection, I move that we place items 5A, 5B, 5C, and 8G on the consent calendar. Is there any objection? Seeing no objection, the items are placed on consent. And without objection, I move the adoptions of all items placed on the consent calendar. Is there objection? Seeing no objection on my screen and my phone, the items on the consent calendar are adopted. Number 5 is the approval. Oh, nope, that's the consent. Without objection, I would like to place item 7 ahead of the town manager's report, as I think it's a little long. So we are going to place item 7 if there's no objection. Seeing no objection, we are going to unfinished business. Item 7, application filed on behalf of ALDI, owner of property located at 511 New Park Avenue, also known as West Hartford Place, located within Special Development District number 94. Application seeks permission to expand the existing ALDI building, enlarge and enhance the existing on-site bus stop shelter, and make associated site, landscape, and parking improvements. This was just the subject of a public hearing. And given that there are relatively minor changes to this SDD, there will be no need to add additional approvals. So if there are anyone that would like to start with any comments? Anybody? Raise your hand or text me or... All right, I think I will speak for the council and thank both Mr. Bruton, if I said Bruton, right? I'm sorry, I think I had the syllable on the wrong. And Mr. Lorenko for being here, for your investment in West Hartford. Again, I appreciate that this was a long, complicated ownership of this property, and the improvements took a little bit longer than you had wanted. We are very excited that you are investing in this property, and not only just in the property, but in some of the flow of traffic around it, including the bicycle improvements, striping, and the bus shelter, as mentioned in the title of this. And so we will go to a roll call vote, but I anticipate that you are going to get working quickly. I'm also glad to hear that this will not be through the holidays. It will be after the holidays, and so people can pick up their produce and whatever ALDI items they need for the holiday season. So with that, we will go. Any other? The question has been made to approve. Madam Clerk.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Dodge.
Mr. Davidoff threw me off a little bit because usually he's the one who makes sure to make these findings for us. But we have a quiet bench tonight. I did just want to confirm in making the approval that you were finding that the plan is in harmony with the overall objective of the comprehensive plan. Superior to a plan under regular standards of our zoning code, and also in harmony with the actual or permitted development of adjacent properties. And those are findings, again, that you're required to make under the code when approving a SDD or changes to an SDD.
Okay, so that is part of the approval process, as Mr. Dodge highlighted. So that is part of this application. All right. Any questions about that? All right, we will go to roll call. Ms. LeBreau.
Ms. Blanks?
Yes.
Ms. Cantor?
Yes.
Mr. Davidoff?
Yes.
Ms. Fay?
Yes.
Mr. Gold?
Yes.
Ms. Kerrigan?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Winograd?
Yes.
And Mr. Williams?
Yes.
It's unanimously approved. Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you for being here tonight. And I'm sure you're welcome to stay on, but bye-bye.
Thank you, Mayor Cantor and members of the council. Appreciate your time tonight. Stay safe.
All right. All right. Now we are back to, now I've lost my place on 7. I'm sorry. I think we're going to the, where am I? I seriously lost my place. Mr. Hart, are we doing town manager's report? Where are you? Sorry.
We are, Mayor.
I got it. Town manager's report. Thank you. Mr. Hart.
Thank you, Mayor. Matt Hart, Town Manager. I have invited Ms. Krause to attend tonight's meeting, just given the state's resurgence in COVID-19 cases. I thought you'd be very interested in the topic. So I'd like to cede most of my time to her, if I could, Mayor, and then I have a couple of other items I'd like to touch on following.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Amy, great to have you. Back to you, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Krause, we're waiting, we're waiting for your leadership and your input. Thank you.
Thank you. Amy Krause, Director of Health for the West Hartford Bloomfield Health District. So yes, we are in the beginning phases of our resurgence of COVID-19. Currently, the town of West Hartford has 992 positive confirmed cases. We've had 34 new cases since last week. As of today, I had 11 additional cases of COVID-19. Connecticut right now has the highest positivity rate of COVID-19 since June 1st. It's currently at 2.4%. Hartford County, we are seeing an increase of hospitalizations. We have 46 hospitalized cases. That's 8 additional cases since yesterday. We are, again, leaning forward in anticipation of a COVID-19 vaccine. With doing so, we had our first drive-through flu clinic at the Department of Public Works garage on October 3rd, and it was very successful. Again, we are continuing our contact tracing efforts, working with our schools, our universities, American School for the Deaf. What we're finding when we're doing our contact tracing is that we're receiving a lot of families that have positive cases. So for instance, if a family of 6 has one individual that is positive, more than likely the remainder 5 individuals will test positive. Those are a total of 6 additional cases. We don't do it by address, we do it by the individual that tests positive. We're also finding that COVID is being spread in the workplace. We've seen a small increase in cases in our long-term care facilities. We have notified the Department of Public Health, the Facilities and Licensing Inspection Program. We are still, again, seeing community spread. I'm encouraging people strongly to please socially distance, to wear a face mask or a face covering when you're outside with other individuals. We still are seeing a large amount of people that are asymptomatic, that are testing positive. Unfortunately, we are still seeing people that are supposed to be quarantined for 14 days that are working. So we are weeding through all of that on top of the contact tracing. We are, again, moving forward with our flu clinics. We've been busy with those. We've vaccinated the Board of Education. We have scheduled our police and our fire departments. We vaccinated our Public Works Department. Tomorrow we are vaccinating our town hall employees, and we are looking at offering another public clinic the week of October 19th. Again, it will be a drive-through clinic. Again, I'd be happy to answer any questions. I know there was some questions regarding the the COVID-19 vaccine. We're being told potentially in January. Studies are still being done on the vaccine. No formal recommendation has been provided to local health departments. However, states are being prepared for 2 different types of vaccine to come. Originally, the vaccine, it's my understanding that the vaccine will be available for first responders, long-term care facilities, people with compromised immune systems, and then as we progress into the later part of winter and early spring, that vaccine would be available for the general public. But again, I'd be happy to answer any additional questions that you might have.
Thank you, Amy. I don't know if you have the answer to this question, but I did send you an email earlier today. I think there's confusion on coverage of the COVID tests and whether they are, I know each person has individual insurance and that is something between their insurer, but I think it was covered under the CARES Act, and some urgent care were saying, don't worry, it's covered, and now they're charging. So I don't know if you know the sort of the landscape on that? And if not, which, I just sent you the email today. So maybe we can provide some guidance to our residents. Thank you.
Yep, great. Yep. Thank you, Mayor. So I did receive that email, and what looks to be what's happening is, yes, so some individuals will go to receive a COVID test. The test itself is free, but because you might still need a physician's note requiring the test, the urgent care will charge an exam fee. So it's my understanding additional monies will be charged for that exam fee if you do not have a physician's note. They act as your physician and will bill your insurance for that exam prior to doing the COVID test. It's almost like an admin fee.
Right. Thank you. I appreciate that clarification. And I know there's probably questions out there about Halloween and advice for Halloween and what we're going to do. And I know we're going to be talking about that in our executive policy group. But I didn't know if you wanted to, Matt or Amy, if you want to make any questions on that. But maybe we can save that for the end, and I can open up to other questions for people. So I see Ms. Blank's hand up. Go ahead, Carol.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. Amy, thank you for that presentation and the information. Very helpful. My question to you, Amy, we've had some warm weathers past few weekends, and I know it's getting a little chillier now. And as the mayor just mentioned, as we approach Halloween, I know there are many people who are going to have these large outdoor backyard gatherings. What type of messaging is the health district preparing? And I'll tell you why I'm asking this question. I know that we've got good messaging out there right now. We've talked about social distancing. We talked about the mask, but I still see a number of residents in town that are still having these large gatherings in their backyard, some inside. The streets are filled with, side to side vehicles. And I get it, right? We've been cooped up for a long time. But in terms of health, not only for them, their family members, but everybody else, what more can we do to drive the point home?
Thank you, Ms. Blanks. Ms. Krause, go ahead.
Thank you. So we've again been working on our public health message. It is a great concern. With warmer weather, more people were outside. As the holidays are coming upon us, it's a great public health concern where people are going to be traveling maybe for the holiday season. They're going to be going to family members' homes. So again, holidays are going to look a little different this year. I'm encouraging people to continue to social distance, as you've mentioned, but really to stay home this holiday season. I can't stress it enough. And I say that again because of what we're seeing now when we're doing contact tracing. We are still putting out the public health message to socially distance. However, there's some families that choose to not do that, that allow children to attend social gatherings. I'm seeing it in the community. We are stressing that public health message. Unfortunately, what we're finding too often when we're doing our contact tracing is that we're the first individuals to make contact to people that have tested positive. So we check in with them. We're checking in with them every single day. We're then contacting their contacts now that they're positive. We're making sure that they have food, that they have all their medicines, that they're actually staying home for the 14 days because they've tested positive. So even though we're still saying our public health message of please stay home if you're sick, please socially distance, yes, we are still seeing cases. I can't tell you why people don't want to listen to our message. But again, I'm encouraging the social distancing. There are asymptomatic people out there. Symptoms are mild. They might feel that they have a sinus infection or just a scratchy throat. And then, 2 days later, they test positive. So we are definitely stressing our message.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you. No more questions, Mayor.
Ms. Beck, just to build on that for 1 minute, we've talked about the importance of flu shots and the drive-throughs that you're doing, but there are lots of places to get flu shots, not only the urgent cares that are doing COVID testing, but pharmacies as well. And how important that is, where the symptoms, might be similar. And so if you don't feel well, stay home, because otherwise you could also be giving people the flu, but get a flu shot, and at least you're maybe somewhat protected. So, right. And then not putting the twin-demic stress on our healthcare system is another reason to do that. So we will keep pushing that message out. Any other questions for Amy?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, Ms. Fay.
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much.
Sorry, Ms. Fay, did you have a question too? I'm sorry, I couldn't.
Whoops.
No, Ms. Fay, you go. I don't know if.
I'll be very.
Okay.
Amy, thank you as always. And this is a very serious thing. We all know that. I actually haven't, because I'm campaigning and out and about, I haven't seen my dad in a month on purpose, because I don't want to impose any health issues on him. He's 85 years old. So I'm just trying to think, what can we do for seniors to sort of get them more social or involved? We're trying to teach my dad FaceTime. He's not too good at it, but me being apart from him for a month is really problematic. Do you have any suggestions of how we can? And Sherry, I'm sure this comes up with you, with your mom. You're out and about too as a public official. And we're trying not to expose anybody. So what can we do to really make our seniors participate in our lives, but not be exposed to this?
Thank you, Ms. Fay. Amy, I don't know if you have any comments. I know I've had a lot of thoughts on this, but Mr. Hart, I don't know. But Amy, I don't know if you want to.
Sure. The town of West Hartford has 2 excellent senior centers. We've been working with them just as they come upon new ideas to make sure that they're safe for their seniors, whether they're virtual events, drive-through events. So I would encourage whomever to take a look at those certain activities. But it is a concern. I understand that. But I think first most, it's protecting them and making sure that they're safe and they're healthy. But it's also coming up with additional ideas. So whether you're able to stand by a window where your father is at, or a family member, just so they're able to physically see you. But it's hard teaching somebody Facebook, FaceTime, Zoom. I totally get it. So I think it's trying to be creative during times like this, especially again with the holidays coming. Whether you're bringing them a meal where again you're able to bring it to them, so they're not having to come out to your house or be exposed. But it's really about being creative for them. But I would just definitely have you contact the senior centers, because they've done a tremendous amount of work during times like this.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's tough because our Thanksgiving is always like a occasion with,
Sure.
20 or more people, but we're trying to keep Dad safe. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Fay. No, this is something that I think we all need to, I know we all need to do a lot of thinking about our neighbors that are elderly, and give them a call and check in and reach out, because they are feeling the loneliness and the, it's very hard, no question. And there's more we can do for sure. Any other questions for Mr. Gold?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you to Amy. Just to bring a little more detail to what you had said, and thank you for what you did say. You had mentioned we had the drive-through flu through the Department of Public Works section. Were there numbers in terms of how many people came through to get flu vaccinations, and can that translate to what you anticipate to be able to give vaccinations in January or whenever the COVID vaccination will come out? Is it apples to apples in terms of what you're able to provide to the community?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Gold. Ms. Krause?
Yep, thank you. So we had a cutoff of 100 for this drive-through, again, because this was the first time the health district had done this event using the Public Works garage. We did time the event to see originally how many cars were coming through from the time they started to the time they came into the garage to the time they got vaccinated to the time they got out. I feel confident based upon those numbers and the flow that we would be able to vaccinate, again, a large amount of individuals. We had 2 lanes coming into the Public Works garage. Obviously, during COVID times, we could open up additional bays, but it's really also making sure that our staff is safe as well. We, made sure that cars were in park, that cars were turned off, that people had PPE on. It's really basically when you're doing a distribution or a vaccine to an individual in a car, it's really you're a moving target at times. People get nervous, people keep their foot on the brake. But I do feel confident based upon the 2 clinics that we did, one in Bloomfield as well, that we will be able to vaccinate individuals safely and timely.
I guess my question then would be, how long did it take you to do the 100 that you capped at?
Remember, guys, you're supposed to go through me.
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, through you as a follow-up, Madam Mayor.
Or Mr. Dodd yell.
Yes, he will. Was there a time frame then? How long did it take to do 100 if that was the cap?
Yep. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gold, Mr. Krause.
Yep. So our clinic, again, we didn't have scheduled times. Our clinic opened up at 10 and then we closed at 1. The total number of cars that came through were staggered. We had a small rush in the beginning and then had a few at the end and then some in the middle. But again, from the time they came through, it was less than 5 minutes per car. I can get you the specific data for that 100 so you can see the timeline between start to finish. But again, they were staggered during that period of time.
Thank you, Ms. Krause. Anything further, Mr. Gold?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I have nothing further. Thank you.
Okay. Just to follow up on that, they were staggered because they had appointments, because you gave them times that you could time, Ms. Krause?
Yep. No, they were not. They came, again, we gave the period of time, again, because when we are doing mass vaccinations, we're not scheduling all individual appointments for people to come. This is going to be the location, this is going to be the time, the place, and basically you come, you get your vaccine, and you exit. So again, we were trying to mirror what we anticipate is going to be happening for a mass vaccination clinic. So no appointments. They registered their information, their insurance information, date of birth, and again, here's your window of time to come. And so we did have individuals come at the beginning and a few at the end and some in the middle. But really when we submit numbers to the state and to the CDC, we do time, again, the vaccines, and it's from the time they come in to the time they're leaving.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Krause. This is Mayor Cantor again. I just do have one question, and this was a question that somebody asked me. I guess some people are either getting high dose or over 65, some kind of extra immune, and their a flu shot. Do you know anything about that, or is there?
Yep. So people over the age of 65 are able to get a high dose vaccine. Again, that's for people age 65 and older. Again, 2 different types of vaccine. For individuals under the age of 65, you would not need the high dose vaccine. It does cost more money. There are individuals that are looking for that vaccine. The health district did buy increased doses this year in anticipation of our elderly population looking for that vaccine. So again, if someone is looking for that, we can schedule that in our office. We did have a senior clinic where we did offer the high dose to individuals. But again, we still have plenty of doses.
Thank you, Ms. Krause. I see Mr. Davidoff, did you have your hand up?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you to Ms. Krause. Ms. Krause, thank you very much for your dedication on this pandemic from day one. This has been a challenge from the beginning. And what's been constant is the leadership of your department and the message, I think, that the majority of the people in the community of West Hartford have heard, which is wear a mask, wash your hands, and social distance. And that message, let me repeat it, wear a mask, wash your hands, and social distance is just as important today as it was back in March. And I would just ask our fellow residents to really heed your words. The numbers are going in the wrong direction. I don't want to scare people, but this is real. People have died. People have gotten very sick. And this is something that we have a social contract with the members of our community to be responsible. And I don't know how you sleep at night, because every day you encounter somebody who has tested positive and you have to deliver the news and contact trace with them and find out what's going on. And it is bothersome. It is worrisome. It's uncertain. So your leadership and the resources that we have provided to your department, hopefully they've been adequate. If more is necessary, definitely let us know, because without having good public health protocols, our entire community is at risk. And I think that's very important. So that's my editorial part, but I do have a question. In less than 3 weeks, we're going to have an election, and a lot of people have chosen the option of voting by absentee ballot, but there's many in our community who wish to partake in election day activities in person. I'd like to hear, and so the public can hear, what steps and protocols do we have in place so that people will be safe with respect to voting in person? And what are your expectations that a voter who attends one of our 9 polling places will follow? I would presume that it would be wear a mask and social distance. Can you enlighten our community this evening with respect to that particular activity? Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Mr. Davidoff. I actually think Ms. LeBreau might have some Ms. LeBreau, actually, it's really our registrars that are handling much of the voting protocols. But Ms. Krause, go ahead.
First off, thank you very much for your kind words. When I took this position, one of the reasons I took this position is because I have excellent staff. Our public health nurses, our environmental health staff, everybody has given their 100%, if not more. We are contact tracing 7 days a week. We have we have 24 hours to make contact to individuals that test positive and then begin the contact tracing. So our staff, again, have done a phenomenal job. I'm encouraging staff to take a break, obviously, because as we begin the resurgence of additional cases, they're going to need that moving forward. But thank you, and I will definitely express your kind words to them. As far as the polling, yes, I would turn that question over to Essie. However, again, I'm encouraging people to wear face masks, wash your hands before and after. I know polling places also will have hand sanitizer, but again, if you're sick, please don't be taking this measure. Again, there's other ways, and I again would turn that over to Essie. Madam Mayor.
Yeah, no. Thank you, Ms. Krause, and thank you, Leon. I will go to Ms. LeBreau now, but this has been a joint effort, but the registrars really have the responsibility for voting, active voting that day. Ms. LeBreau?
I did have a meeting with the registrars last week. I know they are on top of this with the polling places, but just an interesting statistic. If 80% of our registered voters actually vote, that's 32,800 people. As of today, 17,329 voted by, or they actually got a ballot from us. So they applied for a ballot and we mailed out 17,329 ballots. So that's over half. So I think what's going to happen is we will have a large group voting by mail, and that will cut down on the number of people going to the polling places, possibly by half. So I know the registrars are well prepared to have large numbers at the polls, but I just don't see it in the huge numbers like we've had in past presidential elections due to the fact that we have so many absentee ballots out there.
Thank you, Ms. LeBreau. And when we're talking about Herculean jobs, yours is another one. The amazing amount of work that you've had to do to make this happen. It's remarkable. So real heartfelt and I mean, genuine thanks to all of the efforts and many volunteers that are helping you out as well. So we're really grateful to have your leadership and all of that work. So anything else for Amy? I just want to say that Amy, actually, the leadership and the guidance started so early from Amy, more so than we were hearing from many of our state leadership and federal leadership as well. And so the contact tracing was being done right away, and I don't know anyone anywhere that was doing what Amy's been doing, and actually it's been a step ahead of the support services that are needed if somebody tests positives to not, to not spread, anything, and then the guidance all along, and really hard decisions that she has given shed light on. So we are so proud of your department and all that you have done and the leadership that you've shown right from the get-go, and really grateful. I mean, there's so much work that you do every day that we don't see, but there's so much light on it. So the whole package, but with everything going on, we're so grateful for your work. Okay, any other questions for Amy? Stay healthy. All right, and we will go back to Mr. Hart for the town manager's report and any questions from council.
Thank you, Mayor. Matt Hart, Town Manager. I'd also like to extend my thanks to Ms. Krause and the members of her team. I see that she's left our call this evening, but they really have done a phenomenal job. I think sometimes we take public health for granted, and this crisis certainly has shown the value and the need for that service. So I've got half a dozen or so items I want to touch on tonight. I'm conscious of the time, and I'll try to do it as expeditiously as possible. I'd like to start off with something quite distressing that I emailed you about last evening. I'm sure most, if not all of you, saw it, and this concerns the Zoom bombing incident at Emmanuel Synagogue here in town. And that happened yesterday at a 6 p.m. service. And these Zoom bombers, they were displaying pornographic images and Nazi symbols and other very distressing and disgusting things. Our detectives were made aware, I think, a little bit before 8 p.m. and they reached out, made the appropriate notifications, and they're investigating the case. Chief Riddick, as I also told you, he quickly reached out to Mr. Warren, the head of the Jewish Federation, to make sure he was aware. So in accordance with our standard protocol for these types of incidents, our police are finishing up their initial investigation, and they will be submitting their report to the federal authorities probably within the next day or so. And then the federal agencies will review and determine whether or not there's any action they need to take at their level. Our police department has also posted guidance online. We did that a little while ago for our houses of worship, how to try to manage their services in order to prevent this type of activity. Chief Riddick and I are also planning a virtual meeting with the members of our local faith communities. It's been a little while since we met with them. We'd like to see how they're doing through the course of the pandemic and talk specifically about this issue. And I'll consult with the mayor and other members of the council on the agenda and make sure you're all aware of that session. So I did want to touch on that. That is an incident that we take quite seriously. I understand there were similar incidents that occurred around the state over the long weekend too. And it's just, very, very upsetting and something we need to pursue and take seriously, and we do. So moving on to a couple of other things, I've loaded up a pretty comprehensive report for you this evening. I would encourage you to read it when you have time. I think I'll send it to you as a separate document. What I've asked our departments to do is to prepare a monthly report, and they need to submit it to me by the 10th of every month. And just a short report on items that we think you would be interested in, and that would be informative for you. So we loaded that up tonight. Take a look at it when you can. Just to touch on a couple of things. Council meetings, we're going to hold a special council meeting on the night of October 21st. We're going to be reviewing a few key topics, including draft legislation to permit accessory dwelling units, continuing our conversation on that. We're also going to have a presentation on the town's stormwater study. So this special meeting, which we're going to try to hold on the third Wednesday of every month, except when there's a holiday, this is really going to give you an opportunity to meet as a committee of the whole to work on the more meaty topics, whether it's legislation, a special project, what have you. So we'll have that meeting at 6:30 on the 21st, and your next regular meeting will be on October 27th. Just a couple more things, Mayor, then I can take questions. Absentee ballot applications, a notice from our town clerk. If you have not sent in your absentee ballot application and plan to vote by mail, please send it in immediately. If you sent in your application over a week ago and have not received it by today, please send in another application, and we'll get you the information you need. The town clerk's office will get you your ballot so that you can vote utilizing the drop box or by mail. Moving on, an item from our finance department. Would like to commend Mr. Privatera and other members of the finance team. They recently received an Excellence in Financial Reporting Award for the 34th consecutive year. And this is from the Government Finance Officers Association. And this award is a Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. And it's for our annual comprehensive annual financial report. So this is the highest form of recognition that folks in our field can receive for a document like this, and really want to commend them on a job well done in continuing a tradition over many, many years. And then the last item I'd like to touch on, Mayor, congratulations to Gina Marino, our Senior Services Director. Many of you know Gina. She's worked for the town for 32 years now. She's had a stellar career. And this year, the Connecticut Recreation and Parks Association will be recognizing Gina with their outstanding professional award. So certainly well deserved on her part. Gina has worked long and hard for our community and our senior center membership in programming, fundraising. She provides very compassionate service to our senior citizens, and just really is a tremendous addition to our team. So I'll pause there, Mayor, in the interest of time, and take any questions council members may have.
Thank you. And I just also want to extend congratulations to Peter for the excellence in financial reporting, and also to Gina. What an amazing recognition. And she really has changed lives and enriched so many people. So well deserved. Any questions for Mr. Hart? You have to raise your hand high, because some of you, I'm only seeing little pictures. I don't see any. All right. I don't see any. unmute yourself if you have a question. All right. Then Mr. Hart, you're off the, you're all set. And we'll go to Mr. Dodge for Corporation Counsel.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As most of you or all of you are aware, we're a relatively small legal office, particularly given the size of the town, and we've been severely short-staffed since actually the first week of the state of emergency with regard to the pandemic, when we lost our previous assistant corporation counsel in early March. Since then, it was important to myself and Deputy Corporation Counsel Gina Verano. We didn't want to rush into making a new appointment to that position, given the acute phase of the pandemic that we're in and the difficulty of interviewing applicants. And also, we want to make sure that we took the time to get it right. I'm very pleased, however, to announce that I have appointed Attorney Cynthia Latour, to the position of Assistant Corporation Counsel, and that follows a very robust search process where we had, I think Gina said somewhere close to 90 applications for the position from throughout the country. And so it was a very rigorous process, and we're very pleased to announce that we've appointed Attorney Latour. She comes to us from the city of Harper, where she has extensive experience in a broad range of, municipal practice areas, which is necessary in West Hartford because it's important to us that all attorneys in our office maintain a multidisciplinary process and are cross-trained in a number of areas. She was a graduate of UConn Law, as well as George Washington Undergrad University. And so typically when we make this type of announcement, we would ask the new staff member to come to the council meeting and introduce themselves and stand up. Obviously, that's not possible tonight. However, Ms. Attorney Latour is on the line this evening, and so I would just like to invite her to, with your indulgence, Madam Mayor, to introduce herself and make a few brief remarks if she would care to.
Thank you, Mr. Dodge, and welcome, and thank you for your interest in West Hartford and for stepping forward to do this. It's a hard job, and we're so appreciative. So, to you, Attorney Latour.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, everyone. I just want to say that I'm excited to join the West Hartford team. I look forward to working with you all and getting to know everyone better in the weeks to come. So thank you. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. We're so happy to have you and look forward to working with you.
Likewise.
Yes. So, all right. Any yes, and yes, go ahead, Mr. Dodge.
Sorry, Madam Mayor. I also did want to let everybody know that the governor did issue earlier this evening Executive Order number 9G. It actually came out about an hour before the council meeting, and so my office has not really had an opportunity to digest it yet. However, the gist of it is that he's given the chief executive of each municipality the ability to revert to phase 2 if certain conditions are met. If there's an average case rate that goes above a certain threshold, the chief executive of the community, which in our case would be the town manager, would have to make a decision whether they want to stay in phase 3 of the reopening or revert to phase 2. Again, this is hot off the presses, and so we're in the process of reading the executive order, and we'll be advising the town manager with regard to this item in more detail tomorrow. So more to come on that. I'm sure you'll see some coverage of it in the news as well. And Madam Mayor, we will require an executive session this evening to discuss the selection of a site with regard to the lease, sale, or purchase of real estate. I do not anticipate that we will be coming back into public session following that to take any votes. And with that, Madam Mayor, I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody may have.
Thank you, Mr. Dodge. Any questions for Corporation Counsel? All right. I don't see any, and we will be talking to you in executive session. Okay, so only about things that are in executive session, just to be clear. So item 6C, notice of town planner's intention to approve pursuant to section 17744C, 9B, C, and D, a request on behalf of Lex Laz, West Hartford LLC for revisions to the approved Special Development District Plan, SDD number 145, located at 27 Park Road and 14 Ringgold Street. The request is for minor architectural, landscape, and site parking modifications to accommodate overall design enhancements. I move that we receive notice of the town planner's intention to approve of these changes, and I don't know if anyone, either Mr. Hart or Mr. Dumais, would like to just quickly review this.
Thank you, Mayor. Matt Hart, Town Manager. I'll ask Mr. Dumais to add to my comments in a moment. The developer had approached Mr. Dumais looking to make some changes that, we view as fully within his scope of authority. The changes would result in a small number of units, 2, I believe. However, we do think the architectural and landscape changes are compatible, very compatible with the site. And the developer, as you may recall, due to the tax agreement we negotiated and executed for this project, they are required to make a certain investment in this property, and they fully plan to do that. So through you, Mayor, I'd like to ask Mr. Dumais to just briefly add to my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. Mr. Dumais?
Thank you, Mr. Hart and Madam Mayor. To address your request, overall, these changes are minor in nature. The council will recall that our STD process outlines an amendment procedure that includes a series of eligible findings that I can make, assuming that the standards aren't considered contrary to what the council originally approved. In this instance, the applicant's making several changes to the architecture, mostly to the interior of the site. So if you will recall, in between the existing convent and the new building that was to be constructed, there was an interior courtyard. At the time of the original approval, it was essentially all the same material, a kind of a uniform monotone facade of EFIS. And since that time, they've gone back and further refined the design and decided to add a little bit of architectural interest to that. There's also some changes to the facade materials on the south side of the building that screen the garage. The garage is still completely screened. They're just changing the material type. Also, it's still to a metal screening louver. There are also other minor changes to window configuration and placement. And perhaps the most significant change, although still minor, they have found success from one of their projects in Wethersfield in creating a rooftop amenity space. And that rooftop amenity space was not originally incorporated into this design, but they have, through this process, have sought to incorporate a rooftop amenity space that would be an outdoor deck area and barbecue grill area for future residents. That area is located in the central of the southern new wing, and it won't be visible from any of the adjacent streets, giving the size of the development and its location on and set back into the roof. Other changes, Mr. Hart noted there's a total reduction of 2 units as part of this project. That came from reallocation of bedroom types throughout the proposed development. Accordingly, there is a reduction of 9 parking spaces that were decided with fewer units. There was need for fewer spaces. There was also some strategic changes to parking to try to make sure that site configuration and accessibility was a little bit safer. There were other minor changes on the landscape side, principally to trash location, and also throughout the development to the total amount of landscaping proposed. They went with more native varieties of plants over the original design, which is an enhancement and it's a betterment of the original plan. And they actually increased the total quantity of plantings on the site by over 360 types of plant. All of those fall within the range and authority provided as outlined in my letter. And with that, those are the 3 groups of changes condensed into one brief presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Dumais. Any questions or discussion? All right. Seeing none, if there's no objection, we will adopt the motion to receive. Any objections? All right, the notice is received. And now we go on to new business ordinance establishing a 9-month moratorium on certain uses not supportive of transit-oriented development. This agenda item will be the subject, no, that's a note to the public. Without objection, I move that we set for public hearing on November 24th, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. an ordinance establishing this 9-month moratorium on certain uses not supportive for transit-oriented development and refer to TPZ and CROG. Is there any objection? Seeing none, the motion is adopted. A resolution authorizing suspense of taxes owed on the 2016 grand list for motor vehicles and personal property. I move adoption, and we will need a roll call vote. Are there any questions on this item? I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but and we do this every few years on the back taxes. So, all right, with that, roll call, Ms. LeBron?
Ms. Blanks?
Yes.
Ms. Cantor?
Yes.
Mr. Davidoff?
Yes.
Ms. Fay?
Yes.
Mr. Gold?
Yes.
Ms. Kerrigan?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney? Mr. Sweeney?
Yes, sorry.
Mr. Winograd?
Yes.
And Mr. Williams?
Yes.
It's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. LeBron. This is the resolution. This is a little bumpy because we have an amendment, but I move to adopt a resolution amending the fiscal year 2019-2020 general fund budget to fund transfers to the capital non-recurring expenditure fund and the risk management fund. So I move adoption. So I think, do I go right into Mr. Judge? I don't know where your notes are. Can I go right into moving the amendment now, or we don't have to vote on that, right?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You do need to vote to adopt the amendment, and so my recommendation would be to move the substitute amendment.
Yes.
Then after the amendment is adopted, you can then debate the resolution as amended. And you'll, of course, then have to take a roll call vote on that. The adoption of the amendment can be done on unanimous consent, so without objection, you can move that and then advance.
Gotcha. So before we begin the debate, I'm moving the substitute amendment. Substitute amendment has been emailed to everyone on the council. And for members of the public who are watching, it's available on board docs. And Mr. Hart and or Mr. Privatera, would one of you just like to quickly describe the amendment?
Matt Hart, Town Manager. Thank you, Mayor. I'll start off and then I'll turn to Mr. Privatera. So if you look at the cover letter we sent you, what we had planned to do, well, first of all, fortunately, we're in a good position where, due to our prudent financial management last fiscal year, we did conclude the year ending June 30th, 2020, with a surplus of approximately $5.6 million. Of that amount, $2.3 million is allocated to the Board of Education. And recall, with the last budget cycle, you established a non-lapsing fund for future use by the school district, and they may need to draw upon that sum in the new year. Recall that also when we were adopting the budget for the new fiscal year, we relied in part on $1.5 million in fund balance. And it's very important to us for bond rating purposes to replenish fund balance. And, we know that we've been working over time to build that up to a certain level, and we had gotten it to 9.1%. So we were recommending that you allocate the balance of $3.3 million, a little over that, transferring $750,000 to the risk management fund, transferring $743,000 to our capital non-recurring expenditure fund, CNRE, and the balance of little over 1.8 million to fund balance. However, over the weekend, Mr. Privatera was contacted by our auditors, and they have thought about this for a little bit, and they have another recommendation for us that they think would be more prudent from an accounting standpoint. So why don't I pause there, Mayor, and through you, ask Mr. Privatera to elaborate.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. Mr. Privatera?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Peter Privatera, Chief Financial Officer for the town of West Hartford. What Town Manager Hart was explaining is where we are right now. We have a 9.1% fund balance. If we did not take any action, that fund balance would drop to about 8.47%. Unreserved fund balance ratio is a major concern for the rating agencies. We have 2 refundings coming up. I have a call with Standard & Poor's tomorrow on 2 of the refundings. We issue debt every year, so it's important that we demonstrate to the rating agencies that we will make every effort to maintain that 9.1% fund balance and protect the town's AAA rating. The town manager was correct. We have had discussions with our external auditors up to this weekend as to how we were going to present this. The original resolution identified how we were going to commit $1.5 million to fund balance. Now, once committed, that means it's committed for a specific purpose, and that specific purpose would be to replace the $1.5 million that we plan on using this year. Over the weekend, we had additional discussions, and we were told that that wasn't the proper way to do it. So we're reverting to moving that money to CNRE fund balance as we do every year if we have a surplus. And in the last quarter of the current fiscal year, if we feel that we're going to use the $1.5 million that we had designated or assigned for this year, then we'll transfer that money back into fund balance to make us whole again. So basically, the resolution that you have before you makes those transfers. The only different component here is that we will transfer roughly $2,243,000 into CNRE, and that consists of $743,000, which was part of the surplus, and $1.5 million, which is what we're going to hold on to replenish the fund balance if we use it. There's an additional $343,000 that is not part of this transfer that will flow to fund balance to allow us to achieve right now a 9.1% ratio. And that $343,000 every year as our budget grows, we have to basically put more money into fund balance to maintain that 9.1%. As you would imagine, 9.1% of 300 million is more than 9.1% of 290 million. So that 343,000 needs to go to fund balance. That's not part of this transfer. That will automatically go to fund balance. Now, in our year-end financial statements, what it will show that we have a 9.1% fund balance, but $1.5 million of that is assigned, meaning the auditors are recognizing that we've already committed that $1.5 million that we currently have in the fund balance to this year's budget. But the rating agencies basically look at fund balance in its totality. So it's not going to affect us, now. It will affect us after we spend the money if we don't replenish the fund. So basically, the resolution transfers $750,000 into the risk fund. Part of that's going to go to offset unemployment compensation. We have had a significant number of part-time employees that were laid off, and we're estimating at this point the total liability associated with unemployment compensation could reach $450,000. And then part of that is also going to go into our medical reserve. I had mentioned to the manager, I think we needed to put a little more money in there. When we were making some changes to the budget for the current year to achieve a 0% tax increase, we really looked hard at every account. And I think that, we need to put a little money back into the medical fund. And again, and then the 1.5 million transfer will be held in CNRE fund balance in case we need to transfer it back to our unreserved fund balance at the end of the fiscal year. So there's a lot of moving parts here, but the whole purpose of this is to come up with a plan that I can explain to the rating agencies to show that while we're using $1.5 million this year, we have a plan to replenish it and maintain our 9.1% ratio. And I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Privatera. Any questions for the town manager, Mr. Privatera? I don't see any.
Yes, babe.
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Dodge?
can I just recommend as a matter of procedure that you adopt the amendment, get that out of the way, and then I think the debate on the resolution as amended would be appropriate.
Okay, so a motion is on the table to adopt the amendment, and this can be done without objection. So, any objections? All right, without objection, the motion is adopted. The amendment is adopted. And now the resolution is, and I thought I heard somebody ask a question, but I don't know who that
Mayor, it looks like Mary Fay is looking to, raise her hand.
Okay, Ms. Fay, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mayor Cantor. Obviously, our credit rating and our pristine, handling of this is of supreme importance for everything we do, including issuing bonds. Mr. Privatera, with due respect, you really gave a lot of information. I'm not sure everybody understood it. Even me, who has a finance background, it was a lot of things to kind of digest. I can't help but think, is this really solvency for the town and really a good thing? Or is this a little bit of accounting mechanics to make the rating, be AAA or whatever it is that we're looking for? Because you talked about a lot of things, and honestly, it was pretty tough to digest it in just a minute diatribe. I know you're professional. I know you're really good. But I had a problem putting all the numbers together and really understanding the 9% and, how this is a good thing, or we're just staying in a hole for the next fiscal year. So if you could help me understand that.
Sure.
Thank you, Ms. Fay. Mr. Privatera, go ahead.
Sure. Our budget plan this year is to use $1.5 million of fund balance. And I think we all agree to that. If we use $1.5 million of fund balance and do not have a plan in place to replenish that by the end of this fiscal year, our fund balance ratio will drop. It'll drop to, under 8.5%. If we compare ourselves, and the rating agencies do compare us against other AAA rated communities across Connecticut and across the nation, one of the areas that they look at is our fund balance ratio, and we are below our peer communities. So, that's one of the concerns that the rating agencies have, is that our fund balance is low compared to, our other Glastonbury and, some other AAA rated communities. So it's important that we take whatever action we can to maintain what we have. Now, all this does is it takes $1.5 million of surplus and sets it aside in CNRE fund balance. Okay. So if at the end of the fiscal year, if there's an indication that we're going to spend the $1.5 million that we think we're going to spend, if we actually do spend it, we will have the opportunity to move the $1.5 million we had from surplus back into fund balance and maintain that 9.1% ratio. If we don't do it, again, I can't say that we'll have a downgrade, but I'm sure the rating agencies will probably, look, put that in the negative category that our ratio went down.
Yeah,
So that's what we're trying to do.
boil this down for the average listener or watcher to understand. Is it just a counting shell game, or is there real impact that we can keep our rating? And you're kind of confirming what I thought, that we don't know. We're not sure. We're not sure what's going to happen. So you're moving money around, but we're not sure if we're going to have the revenue or we're going to have the right drivers, to keep that credit rating as it is.
Ms. Fay, I think that, oh, go ahead. I'm guessing that I think Mr. Hart wanted to say something.
Thank you, Mayor. Matt Hart, Town Manager, and thank you for your questions, Councilor Fay. Recall, each and every year, the council does make adjustments, year-end adjustments. And, we did a lot of good work that resulted in the surplus this year. A lot of it was our response to the pandemic. Recall, we laid off a number of people, I think approximately 130 part-timers, because our activities had slowed, and we thought that that was a prudent thing to do, and I think this bears it out. But we do not have a track record of utilizing fund balance to help balance the budget on a regular basis. And keeping fund balance at a certain level is important for the reasons that Mr. Privatera explained. By transferring it, though, to CNRE, that gives us even more flexibility and gives you more flexibility. Let's see how things play out this year and what we need to do. And CNRE, that is really the option that provides us with the most flexibility, and that the town has long utilized as a contingency for a slightly uncertain future. So I understand there are a number of moving parts. We're recommending a change here, but I do recommend that the council accept Mr. Privatera's recommendation. I think it's in the town's best interest.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hart. Ms. Fay, anything further?
No, I just want to really make sure that the, money tracks the budget, and, there's accounting transactions, and then there's cash flow. So I just want to make sure the town's in really rock solid position. That's my only concern. It's not about the people. It's not about what they presented. I trust Mr. Hart and Mr. Privatera. I'm sorry, my voice is gone. I just wanted to kind of understand the moving parts a little bit more. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And what I would say is that what this transfer does is put money back to the buckets we took it from, hoping that we could manage our way through this, and at least for a portion of this COVID we have. And obviously there's still many unknowns, but we're ready to make hard decisions going forward. So anyway, any further questions for? All right. We will need the question. So now this will be adopting the resolution, and we will need a roll call vote. Ms. LeBreau.
Excuse me, Madam Mayor, I'd like to ask a question.
Okay, sorry, Mr. David.
First, I'd like to make a comment. Thank you, Mr. Privatera, Mr. Hart. I think that your commentary with respect to the resolution was pretty straightforward, and I had no problem interpreting what you were saying with respect to the decisions with respect to the transfer. We knew that this was going to be a very difficult year in terms of uncertainty, and we made many assumptions that as fiscal year past ended up, allowed us to be in this position this evening to do that. And I appreciate you checking with our auditors to make certain that the transactions that we're anticipating making are within the guidance of sound fiscal policies. And as has already been acknowledged this evening, our financial reports for the last 30 plus years have received recognition from outside sources because of the sound fiscal practices that we do. With that said, the question I have is, with all this uncertainty and the discussions that you're going to have with the rating agencies, do you think that we're going to find ourselves in a position that is dissimilar to other communities throughout the country? Or are we all going to be possibly in the same boat? Because we're seeing things of magnitude nationwide that nobody probably could have predicted with a large amount of different entities.
Thank you, Mr. Davidoff. Mr. Privatera, I guess.
Sure.
I don't know who's going to answer that.
Sure,
Because
I
there's
can-
a
I
lot
can-
of-
I can
in your
start and
okay.
I can start and then town manager can jump in. I think a lot of communities are in the same position as we are. There's different situations with different communities across the country. You know, we rely primarily on property taxes. Some larger communities and cities rely on a combination of property taxes and sales tax. You know, what we do have to try to maintain our credit standing is we have a plan that will keep us where we are with respect to certain ratios. Our fund balance ratio is very important. So I think that, you know, there are a lot of communities out there who are in difficult situations. And when we have a conversation with, tomorrow we have a conversation with Standard & Poor's based for our refunding, but they're going to want to know, how did you do last year? How are you doing this year? Are there any significant changes in town, economic or otherwise, that would affect the performance of the town financially? And is there anything that we need to know about West Hartford that would change our expectation in the future? And it's important for me to say, although we plan on using $1.5 million of fund balance, which, as most of you know, we never touch fund balance unless it's a dire situation. I can honestly say tomorrow that, you know, I proposed to council that we set aside $1.5 million of prior year surplus to replenish that in case we spend all of it. So I think we're in a pretty, you know, decent situation. I mean, we are going to have some challenges this year, but I think compared to some other communities, we're doing okay.
Thank you, Peter. Mr. Privatera. Anything further?
Mayor Matt Hart, Town Manager. I could just to add on in response to the Deputy Mayor's question. I think some local governments in other parts of the country where their revenues are more volatile have felt this more acutely, and it's probably a matter of time before the impact is more profound in Connecticut. But in areas of the country where they rely on a local sales tax, for example, maybe even a local income tax, those local governments have already had to engage in even more significant actions than we have had to do with respect to furloughing staff, et cetera. But we've been working in a collaborative manner with you, and we appreciate your support to try to take appropriate action and put us in a good position. And I think the things we did last spring, as difficult as they were, laying off over 100 people was a wise and prudent thing to do.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. Anything further, Mr. Davidoff?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so we are adopting, the motion is to adopt the resolution as amended, and we will now need to go to a roll call vote. Ms. LeBrun.
Ms. Blanks?
Yes.
Ms. Cantor?
Yes.
Mr. Davidoff?
Yes.
Ms. Fay?
Yes.
Mr. Gold?
Yes.
Ms. Kerrigan?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney,
Yes.
Mr. Winograd, Mr. Winograd,
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Yes.
It's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. LeBrow. Okay, D, resolution transferring $14,500 from the C.F. Moray Trust Fund and amending the fiscal year 2020-2021 budget of the Capital Projects Fund to purchase equipment for the Rockledge Golf Club. I make a motion that we adopt. Mr. Hart, do you want to briefly, I don't know if you want to briefly explain this one?
Happy to do so, Mayor. Matt Hart, Town Manager. We're looking for your approval to utilize interest income from the Morway Trust to purchase a couple of pieces of equipment for the Rockledge Golf Course. The Morway Trust, it's been in place for many, many years now. The town is allowed to use the interest from the investments to improve recreational facilities, purchase capital equipment. So there's two pieces of equipment here that we'd like to buy that we think really would assist with keeping the golf course in very good shape. One's a thatching machine and the other is called the Pro Sweeper. Tim Nadeau, our golf course superintendent, he's done a nice job, I think, finding slightly used machines that would be an even better deal for the town. So again, we're requesting your approval, and we do periodically come to you requesting the use of interest income from the trust for purposes like this.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. Any questions for Mr. Hart on this? All right, seeing none, we're going to go to a roll call. Ms. LeBrow?
Ms. Blanks?
Yep.
Ms. Cantor?
Yes.
Mr. Davidoff?
Yes.
Ms. Fay?
Yes.
Mr. Gold?
Yes.
Ms. Kerrigan? Ms. Kerrigan?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Winograd?
Yes.
And Mr. Williams?
Yes.
That is unanimous as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. LeBrow. E, resolution authorizing the execution of a permanent easement to support the construction of the Mountain Road at Albany Avenue intersection improvement project. This has been on our agenda several times, but I make a motion to adopt. And Mr. Hart, do you want to briefly just review this quickly?
Thank you, Mayor. Actually, through you, I'd like to ask Town Engineer, Mr. Martin, to briefly speak to this.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Martin.
Sure, I'll be brief. Yes, Dwayne Martin, Town Engineer, and I apologize that these keep coming piecemeal for this project, but unfortunately, sometimes that happens. Long story short, this is part of our Mountain and Albany Avenue project. There's a resolution before you to authorize the town manager to sign. Town staff, along with Corporation Council, has been working with the property owner at 3 Lovelace Drive. And this is something that was recognized as part of the grant application. The fact that we need to widen Mountain Road to help with the congestion that we experience at that intersection. Unfortunately, the widening requires about an 8-foot easement dedication from the property of 3 Lovelace Drive, which would allow us to incorporate the needed travel lanes on Mountain Road. So we've been working with the property owner and discussing this for quite some time. The easement would include the replacement of a very tall retaining wall, as well as a fence and some landscaping. In the process of the discussion with the property owner, we recognize that the retaining wall is an existing feature, which is integral to the safety of the motoring public. And so the town proposed to replace it and maintain it as we do now. However, the fence and the landscaping above the retaining wall would be installed as part of the project, but ultimately maintained by the property owner at 3 Lovelace Drive. The retaining wall will essentially look the same as it does now, as well as the retaining walls that that property owner has along her Lovelace Drive frontage, just for continuity. This was, as I mentioned, part of the original grant application, and therefore the funding for this work is included as part of the grant, so no cost to the town. If you have any questions, I will gladly answer.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Any questions for Mr. Martin? All right. With that, the resolution is the motion to adopt is on the table. And if there are no questions, we will go to roll call. Ms. LeBron.
Ms. Blanks?
Yes.
Ms. Cantor?
Yes.
Mr. Davidoff?
Yes.
Ms. Fay?
Yes.
Mr. Gold?
Yes.
Ms. Kerrigan?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Winograd?
Yes.
And Mr. Williams?
Yes.
It is adopted. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. LeBron. Next is announcements. I'm going to go through this quickly. Niche rates Conard and Hall. This is fresh off the press today. The website, Niche website, has named Conard and Hall A-plus schools number 7 and 8 in Connecticut, respectively. West Hartford's high schools are the highest ranked high schools outside of Fairfield County and the only ones in the top 10 with a free and reduced lunch rate over 5%. Ours is 27%. This is not beyond nice recognition for our schools. But if you want to read more about it, you can visit the niche.com, search best public high schools in Connecticut. This is something that we should all be very, very, very proud of. CHEFA Cultural Relief Grants. This is Connecticut Humanities will be regranting a total of $85,000 to cultural organizations across Connecticut. Each grant will be in the amount of $5,000 and may be used for general operating expenses, and no funding match is required. Letters of intent will be reviewed on a rolling basis. Visit Connecticut Humanities website to review the CHEFA Cultural Relief Program guidelines and to access the online letter of intent application form. And it's all on board docs as well. Art Loves All Colors fundraiser for West Hartford Art League and Food Share. They're selling 18 by 24 lawn signs for $20 that say Art Loves All Colors. And on the other side, it's blank and you can put your own message on your sign now. There is a lot to say, and hopefully you'll be respectful. So put that on your lawn, and you can go to westhartfordart.org to learn more. Healthy Chats with Access Health Connecticut is the insurance marketplace is holding a series of healthy chats during 2021 open enrollment period so individuals can learn about their plan options, financial help, and tips to stay covered. RSVP today. It's an Eventbrite at eventbrite.com for AHCT-2020-Healthy Chats. Noah's 262nd birthday bash, October 17th. Our most famous son will turn 262 on October 17th, 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. Fun activities are planned all day for kids, live music, food trucks, and adult beverages for all. A limited number of people will be allowed on the grounds at one time to provide for social distancing or physical distancing. Reserve your time slot. And go to the Noah Webster House to do that. October blood drives, really important during this pandemic. You can help by going to the West Hartford Senior Center, 15 Stockwell Road on October 21st, 12:30 to 5:30, and October 27th, 8 a.m. to 5:30. Sign up ahead of time at redcrossblood.org or call 1-800-733-2767. I think you all saw there was the USDA teamed up with farms to do a box for pick a distribution through the month of October, and those are being distributed out of Rehoboth Church of God in coordination with Mayor Brown and Mayor, also, three towns, Windsor, Bloomfield, and West Hartford. There are 3 more distributions to be held. The first one was on the 9th. There are 1,800 boxes on the truck, and they were gone, I think, by 1 p.m. So they have perishable food, gallon of milk, also some non-perishables in there too. But It's a good box, and they are available to anyone who needs one. No proof of residency in any of the 3 towns, but 1 box per household. Playhouse on Park brings home plate comedy to Dunkin' Donuts Park, October 23rd. And it will take place in the bleachers of at the park, and it will begin at 7. Linda Belt and Darren Rivera will co-headline for 90 minutes of laughs. Tickets are $15. Outside food and drink is not permitted. Seating will be assigned socially distanced. And lastly, West Hartford Hauntings, October 22nd through 24th and October 29th and 30th. This is the theatrical spooky cemetery tour. Between the historical, your ghostly guide leads you on a lantern-lit tour of Old North Cemetery where you experience tales of death, disease, and real history. Unfortunately, I feel like we're living part of this now. The tours take place on October 22nd. I mentioned 23rd, 24th, 29th, and 30th. And they're tours leave every 15 minutes from 6 to 8:45 p.m. and run for 45 minutes. Due to some scary content, it's suggested that participants be age 10 or over, and tour sizes are smaller this year to allow for distancing. Tickets may be sold out by the time of the event, so walk-ins may not be possible. I have done this a couple times. It's really, they do a great job. And really the announcements felt a bit normal, but don't take it like that. What you need to do is make sure that you are taking a bit of normal, but always taking precaution. So, and I just can't say enough that you be well and be safe. We are going to adjourn, but before that, I'm going to announce executive session, and then we're going to adjourn. And you all have links for the new executive session, and we're not coming back to this WebEx. So, without objection, I move that we enter executive session to discuss the selection of a site or the lease, sale, or purchase of real estate, and that the meeting adjourn immediately thereafter. Is there any objection? There being no objection. Oh, so I have to ask, is there any objection? I was speeding through that. No objection. There being no objection, we will now enter executive session, and the public portion of this meeting is now adjourned. And when I will say before I do the gavel, again, do what you know you need to do. Physically distance, wash your hands, wear face coverings, protect each other. If you're sick, stay home, get your flu shot. I would like to invite the town manager, corporation counsel, deputy corporation counsel to join us in the executive sessions. Good night, be well, be safe.